Good morning, students. As we have done the introduction part of the chapter separation of substances earlier, now we are going to discuss about the methods of separation. Okay, so our first method is hand picking. So, what is a hand picking? You can see in the picture that is given in your book that a lady is there and she is picking out something, maybe the unwanted substances that she doesn't want. She is picking that substance out from from her hand only. So I think her whatever method she is using, this method will help her to remove the unwanted substances. So the method that she is using, it is actually known as what? Hand picking. So what is a hand picking now? So hand picking is a separation technique used to remove the unwanted impurities from the mixture by hand only. It involves simply picking out substances by hand and separating them from others. Hand picking method can be used only when items differ on the basis of color, shape and weight, etc. So I can say that the process of manual removing of a mixture based on the differences in their sizes, shapes, appearances or qualities is called hand picking. Okay, so I think you have got the idea of hand picking now. Now we are going to discuss about another way of separation, that is known as magnetic separation. So students, our next topic is magnetic separation. So magnetic separation, what is a magnetic separation exactly? First you have to know about it, that magnetic separation is the process of separating components of mixtures by using magnets to attract the magnetic materials. The process that is used for magnetic separation detaches non-magnetic materials with those who are magnetic. That means suppose I'll give you one example, like if you want to separate the plastic bits from the iron bits which are actually mixed up, what we are going to use? We are going to use exactly the magnetic separation method, which involves the magnets. What happens at that time, that when a magnet is brought close to the mixture, the iron beads get attracted to the magnet and thus get separated from the plastic bits. This only happens in this magnetic separation. Again this separation technique is used, very useful for like iron industries exactly. So what happens in those iron mines, the iron mines, as only irons get attracted towards the magnet and the rest of the unwanted substances are left behind simply. It is also used to separate recyclable iron wastes, obviously, like iron wastes are there. If so, if you want to separate only those substances, as iron is a magnetic substance, and what are magnetic substances exactly? The substances that are attracted towards the magnet. So as irons are magnetic substances, they will definitely attracted towards the magnet, and hence we will get the only magnetic substances from our junkyard. One more use is given here. You see that magnets are also used to remove iron splinters from the body of an injured person. So if a person is injured by irons, so we can use magnets to pull it out. Okay, so I think that magnetic separation part is completed. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in that part. Okay, so students, our next topic is actually threshing. So now we are getting into the crops. Okay, so what is actually threshing? So you know that harvesting is the process of collecting the crops. So we have to collect the crops, and the reason you know well, for this thing we have to harvest. Okay, so after harvesting, what happens? The next step after harvesting is actually threshing. So what happens in threshing and what is that? So kindly try to understand. Okay, here threshing is the process of loosening the edible part of grain or the crop, you can say, from the chaff. Now what is the chaff? So chaff is that part where the crops are actually, or the edible parts are actually in contact, or you can say it is attached. So chaff, or actually you can say the chaff is the husk surrounding the seed. Okay, I'll give you the picture. Okay, you will be able to see it. Now it is the step in grain preparation after the harvesting or reaping, you can say. But threshing does not remove the bran from the grain. So there are many processes to like remove the bran. Now we are going a little bit forward on it. You say that threshing may be done. Well, how threshing is done, now I am explaining that thing. Kindly listen to it nicely. Threshing may be done by beating the grain using a flail on a threshing floor. Okay, another traditional method of threshing is to make donkeys or oxen walk in circles on the grain on a hard surface. A modern version of this in some areas is to spread the grain on the road, or in the surface of the country road, so that so the grain may be threshed by the wheels of passing vehicles. So I think you have got the idea that how this threshing done. Now this because of this technology, that a combine harvester is present, which actually helps. I will give you the picture of combine harvester. It is actually used in like big industries for threshing. Okay, and like there are many machines, no? So the first threshing machine, kindly listen or keep in mind, I'll ask you sometimes in the class. Okay, the first threshing machine was invented in 1786 by Scotsman Andrew. Okay, what I said you, that the first threshing machine was invented in 1786 by Scotsman Andrew. Okay, so students, after threshing, the next step is what? Winnowing. So, what is winnowing exactly? That the winnowing is the next step after threshing. It is the process used to separate heavier seeds from the lighter components, like dry straw pieces and chaff, by the action of wind. Okay, in its simplest form, what happens that it involves throwing the mixture into the air. Simply, you just throw the mixture, whatever mixture we have, we will throw it into the air, so that wind blows away the lighter chaff. The heavier grains fall down for recovery. You just have to do nothing. You just have to stand on a higher level and allow the mixture to fall on the ground. The wind blows away the light components while the heavier grains fall down to the heap. So what happens to the chaff? That the what is exactly chaff? I said, that the unwanted particle or the husk that is exactly surrounding the seed. The separated chaff can be used as a fodder for the cattle. Okay, so this is only the winnowing part. So I think you have got the idea of winnowing. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay. So students, our next topic is what? Sieving. So what is a sieving? Sieving is a method of separation of particles of different sizes using a sieve. A sieve is what? So how a sieve works? You have to see that a sieve is like a net. Okay, it is made of net only, or mesh, which has tiny holes present in it. The size of the holes is such that the particles of only one component will be allowed to pass through it. Okay, but not the unwanted particle, because the unwanted particles has little bit larger size, no, and the particle that we want, it should have a little bit smaller size, or it should be tiny to pass through the hole. Sieving is also used extensively at construction sites to remove pebbles from the red sand, because you know that red sand is used highly in the construction site, so it should be pure. Okay, so unwanted substances, unwanted particles should be removed from that, and to remove that the unwanted particles, sieving is actually used. You will see that one board type of structure is okay. I am giving you a picture on the screen. You will be able to see nicely that how in a which type of structure it has. Okay, so this is only sieving, that is exactly made of what, net and tiny holes. So I think you have got the idea of sieving. So our next topic that we are going to talk about is sedimentation, desentation and filtration. Okay. So our next topic is that for what we are going to talk about, that for a mixture of like solid and liquid, simple methods like handpicking, thrashing, winnowing, or sieving are not appropriate to separate the components, because you know that all the particles that are exactly in one state of matter. But here, solid and liquid, the states are changed. Okay, the matters or the solutes, whatever are present, their states are being changed. So, because of to remove from that unwanted particles, we use processes such as sedimentation, desentation or filtration to separate the components of a mixture. So our first process that we are going to talk about is sedimentation. Okay, so from the name you can keep from the name you can imagine that what type of process this is. It is known as sedimentation. So what is in it? You see, sedimentation is the process by which insoluble heavy particles in a liquid are allowed to settle down. That means two types of things will be there. One particle that will be actually a little bit heavier, or like insoluble, or you can say soluble also but little bit heavier. But it is firstly it is in mixture, when it is in mixed form. So after that, what we are going to do, that we will just keep it in a bottle or anywhere in a calm place where no one is going to disturb. That is very very important. If you are going to disturb it, it will again mix up with the water. Just keep it in a place where no one is going to disturb it, and slowly it will settle down. So this process is only known as what, sedimentation. So on the screen you are able to see one picture from that you are seeing two beakers are there, and in that beaker a spoonful of soils are being mixed with water. And if we want to remove the mixed water, to get the only pure water, we will just let them to be in a nice place where no one is going to disturb. And slowly what will happen, that the heavier particle, that means the soil, it will settle down in the lower part of it. So after that, we will pour out slightly and very carefully the water from it, and we will be able to get the water. So this process only known as was sedimentation. The next process that we are going to talk about is desentation. After sedimentation, the heavier particles which settle down in the liquid constitute sediments. Means they will be only known as what, sediments. As you can see in the picture on the screen that you are able to see, the clear liquid obtained after sedimentation can then be slowly transferred into another container. You will be able to see in the picture that there are two containers are present, one with the mixture, and another where the pure water that is coming through. Okay, so you see that slowly transferred without disturbing the settled particle or sediments. That means whatever sediments were present in the first beaker, you have to keep in mind, you have to do it very carefully, that that sediment should not be disturbed. Okay, this process is only known as what, desentation. So desentation is done, but do you think that whatever water we have got there, it is actually 100% pure or 100% free from the earlier sediments? No. So what we are going to do to get the pure water or to get the sediment free, we are going to do filtration. So that is only our next part. The next topic that we are going to discuss about is filtration. So what is a filtration now? So filtration is a physical process which is used for the separation of solids suspended in liquids by putting a device called a filter. That means we are using a filter paper to get the residue out of it. Okay, how it works, how it looks like the system, you will be able to see on the screen. Okay, you see there, through which only the liquid can pass. You will be able to see the liquids, the filter paper that is in the round shape little bit, no, only liquid can pass through it, and the solid impurities bigger than the perforations, no, are retained on the surface of the filter. You will be able to see a cup like structure, na, there. The residue, they are actually known as residue, the unwanted particles, they will be above the filter paper, and the liquid that we exactly want, that is actually in the lower side we will get. So that thing is exactly known as what? Filtrate. Okay, so the liquid obtained after the filtration is called filtrate, and the unwanted particle, this is that is upon the filter paper, that is known as residue. Some of the practical views, you see that the juice seller uses the piece of cloth to remove the husk or the other bigger particles which may be left in the juice. So in that process, whatever we have used, that we have used the filter paper, because the water was actually in a very lower amount, but here the seller cannot use paper because it will turn, because their amount is actually greater than us, no. So because of that thing only we will use the cloth only. Next, another practical view of this, you see the inner lining of our nose has fine hair. We will be able to feel it, no. This hair trap the dust particles from the air, because we know the atmosphere is very much polluted, and the pollutants whatever are present, our nose has tiny hairs, they exactly resist the dust particles from it. So it is very useful, we don't have to cut it. Okay, we should not cut this one, because it is very useful and it doesn't allow the pollutants to come through our nose. Okay, this is also a type of filtration. So I think the filtration part is clear. If you have any doubt, you just ask me. Okay. So students, you see that in all the examples we have talked about, the components of various mixtures separated were not soluble in water. That means they can be like insoluble. One part is soluble in water, so may other maybe not. But what will happen if the particle is soluble and it is totally mixed in water? Can we able to get it out from it from the earlier processes? No. So what are the processes now that we are going to pick it out? So that's why we are going to discuss the next process that are very very important in our daily life, that is evaporation and condensation. You just take a situation. Okay, sprinkle a few drops of water on a plate, blow air over it using hair dryer. What will happen? You just imagine that it is written in book that sprinkle a few drops of water on a plate, blow air over it using a hair dryer. What happens to the water? So I can say that what will happen, the hair dryer, we will get the air upon it, isn't it? And because of the air, after a while, what will happen? The water disappears. What you will think that it is a magic? No, there is no magic in it. Okay, when you blow air, it changes into water vapor, which is the gaseous state of water. It just changed its state, nothing happened. Because of the temperature or because of the air, what happened, that the water particles that are exactly present on the plate, no, because of the hot air or the air that is being passed away upon it, the water droplets are exactly just transferred in its gaseous state. So that thing only known as evaporation. So what you can say, that the process of conversion of water into water vapor is called evaporation. So that exactly happens in in our water cycle, as I have told you many times in school, that how a water cycle or how it works. So if from the rivers or the ponds, because of the temperature, what happens, that the water particles exactly goes up by the process of evaporation. That means from their liquid state they are just changing into its gaseous state. So this thing only, this process only, it is known as evaporation. Okay. So as the evaporation is done, it can be used when we want to get back the substance that has dissolved in water. That means like if salt and water is mixed up, what you do, that just take a plate. In that plate you just mix salt and water together. So what happened, that the salt will totally mixed up with the water, no? So if again you want that, no, I want my salt back, so you will not be able to do with this by hand picking, winnowing, and many other process that I have said you. What you have to do, just take that plate to the sun, and in your outdoor you can place it anywhere, and after some time you will get your uh, like salt. So what does happen there? So because of the temperature, all the water particles that are exactly present in it just transferred into, converted into water vapor, and as the salt was in that solid form, you will get it back. So that is exactly the practical view of evaporation. Now we are going to talk about the condensation. Okay, I think the evaporation you have got. So if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay, so you see about the condensation now. The opposite process of change of water vapor into the water is called condensation. Okay, so exactly this happens also in the like water cycle. As the water vapors goes up again, because of the coolness, no, outside there is as the water vapors will get the cold, it will slightly convert its form into again the water droplets, and again it comes back to earth as rain. This exactly happens, the evaporation and the condensation. Okay, the ponds, from the ponds, because of the temperature, evaporation happens and the water particles goes up in the gaseous form. Again when they feel little bit cold, no, they come together and they form the water droplets. The water droplets, okay, I'm taking you one more condition about it. Have you whenever you are going to drink like cold drinks, no, you have seen that the bottle is tightly packed from the upper part, but a little amount of like water droplets coming from out of the body of it. Haven't you seen that thing? This happens why this happens? This happens because the outer air atmosphere are exactly the air was present in its gaseous state, but whenever it comes in contact, or the waters are exactly mixed, was were in mixed form, no, with the air in its gaseous state, whenever it comes in contact with the colder part of the bottle, because cold drinks were cold, no, so whenever it comes in contact with the colder part, it just transferred its state from gaseous to the liquid form, and you will see that little drops are coming from the sidewise areas. So I think you have got the idea of condensation also. So if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay. So students, our next topic that we are going to talk about is solution and solubility. So what is a solution? A solution is a homogeneous mixture of a solvent and a solute. So I told you earlier that a solution has two parts, and one part that is known as solvent, another part that is known as solute. What is a homogeneous mixture? And this one I have also told you in mixture, that in homogeneous part what happens, that the tiny particles or the like elementary particles whatever present inside it, no, they are exactly in equal amount in all over the area. Okay, so now what is a solvent and a solute? So you know that in solution there are two parts, one thing that we are going to mix, and another thing that are in greater area. Suppose like salt in water, so in salt and water solution, water is in greater form and salt is in what? Salt is in little bit lesser form. So in what we say to the water, so water is exactly that solvent which actually dissolves the solute in it. And what is solute? That the amount, or that the thing that is exactly in lesser amount. So I think you have got the idea of solvent and solute also. I'm going to say this one again, that the solvent is that thing that exactly dissolves solute in it. And what is a solute? The smaller particles, or the particles that are exactly we are going to mix in water or the solvent. So now you see that a solvent is a substance, according to book I'm going to say it. A solvent is a substance that dissolves a solute, that may be liquid, solid or gas, resulting in the formation of a solution. Solvents are usually but not always liquids. So I think it is clear. So now we are going to talk about our next part, that is exactly solubility. Okay, the you just go through page number 50 and the examples of solution and ask me if you haven't got this. Okay, ask me, you can ask me the examples, you can ask me the questions upon it. Okay, just go through it and ask me. Now next that we are going to talk about is solubility. So solubility is the maximum amount of substance dissolved in the given volume of solvent. Because we have taken solvent as a liquid form, because of that thing we have to go for the capacity. Okay, and the liquid form we will always take the unit of it like milliliter, liter, and that way. So what is the solubility? So solubility is the maximum amount of substance that dissolved in a given volume of solvent. That means whatever solute that we are going to add in, it would have some mass, no? So because of that thing we are going to take it in gram, and the solvent, it will have little bit liquid substance in it. So because of thing we are going to take milliliter. So what is the unit of it? Gram per 100 milliliter. Okay, so next thing that we are going to talk about is a saturated solution. So what is a saturated solution? A saturated solution is the one in which no more solute dissolve as it has reached its maximum solubility. That means after reaching the optimum value or optimum solubility situation, we are not going to add any more solute. Okay, otherwise it is not going to work. That means a saturated solution is that one in which no more solute dissolves. That is the optimum value. Okay, no more solute dissolves at it has reached its maximum solubility. So I think we have got the idea of solubility also. Now we are going to talk about what are the factors affecting solubility. Okay, first factor that is exactly said here, it is stirring. So solutes dissolves faster in the solvent when the solution is stirred. So why? The reason behind it, that why or how the stirring helps in increasing the solubility. Because of the stirring, the solute particles have a little bit movement in it, and maximum number of collisions happens out there, and because of that the intermolecular bonding breaks of the solute, and it dissolves very easily in it. So next I think you have got the idea of stirring now. So next that we are going to talk about is solute in powdered form. So you always know that if the particle, or if the particles are in very larger sizes, it is too hard to mix. But if it is in tiny particles, their sizes are very small, it is easy, they will easily mix up with the solvent part. That's because the if the solute is in powdered form, their solubility increases. Now that another thing that is very important that we are going to talk about is temperature. So how temperature exactly works? Solubility of a solute increases when the temperature increases. The question is why? What is the reason behind it? So you have to listen it very carefully because it is very important. Okay, so what happens, like in our home also we are going to talk about, or have you feel or seen that, or work, this type of work you have done in your home or not, I don't know, that have you feel that if you're going to mix salt in a cold water or a salt in a hot water, which is actually get mixed up very early, in the very early stage, that if the water is hot and you are going to mix it up, no, it will mix very easily. It will take a short time to totally get mixed. But in cold water, no, you have to stir it for a longer time than the hot water. This exactly happens because of the temperature that we are providing it, the particles that are getting extra kinetic energy. Okay, what is an extra kinetic energy? Energy due to the movement of the particles. Okay, because of the extra kinetic energy that we have given through the temperature, the particles start moving. That means the solid particles start moving in a very high rate. Okay, and because of that thing, solid particles come closer and they collide together very rapidly, and because of that thing, their bondings, they just broke. Okay, the intermolecular bonding, because I have said you that the particles have actually intermolecular bonding between them, and because of the kinetic energy, it just breaks and they get easily mixed up with the solvent. So this way temperature exactly works. So because of your class only, I have to say for a little, but still if you want to know about it, I'll say you. Okay, just you have any doubt, you can ask me. Next thing that we are going to talk about is crystallization. So what is a crystallization? Crystallization is the process of separation of solid solute crystals from an homogeneous solution. That means if you want to get back the solid particles from a solution or like solvent, how it is going to work? With the help of crystallization that we are going to do. Okay, that means the salt from water that we are going to talk about, it is also in crystal form only. So evaporation is used for the commercial manufacture of salt. The process of manufacturing of salt is given here. In the book you will be able to see the picture. Okay, so next part we are going to talk about that how we get the salt from the seawater. Okay,